Anita Artiagoitia.
And where are you working?
I'm working at a school in China. That's a bilingual school in China, in Beijing.
Fantastic. And have you been teaching second grade?
Yes, I'm teaching second grade.
Great. So I'm going to ask you some questions about planning.
Okay.
Okay? So we're going to start asking you, do you have common planning time in collaboration with other teachers?
Yes. We have 2 common meetings with the whole team. One is for planning. More than planning on a weekly basis is outlining the monthly unit for readers and writers workshop. And the second meeting we have weekly is for looking at children's work.
Great. And how long before a specific lesson do you prepare it?
Well, in second grade, you can plan a little bit more ahead. We have this monthly outline of what that unit should look like in a monthly basis. Now, I plan daily, and I'm able to plan for 2 days in advance, not much more than that, because you don't really know how children respond, especially these children whose language skills are not so strong. So I'm able to plan 2 or 3 days ahead of time, not more than that. But I do have the vision of what the whole unit will be. So I know exactly what the long-term goal is.
I see. And do you write down lesson notes to guide you, or do you rely on lesson format provided by another teacher, textbook, or teacher's guide?
I write my own lesson plans. I write an outline for me to know what the clue or the key points of the lessons are going to be, but I don't need to give them to anybody, and we don't have a specific format that is requested. Now, I myself use the UBD model for planning, where I set an enduring understanding, the essential questions, the assessment, and then I plan my activities. But this is something personal. It's not something that the whole team does.
It's not required? And
not at all. There's nothing required.
And does your school require a specific lesson planning template?
No.
No? Not at all. Does the school require lesson plans to be submitted to administrator or share with parents?
No. We're only asked to submit lesson plans, but without a specific format, for our yearly observation, where the administrators come and observe us. We're required to send the lesson plan ahead of time, but they have never given us a format or anything. So I use the one I feel more comfortable using, which has also been used by other teachers. But no, we don't submit them to anybody, and not to parents. To parents, we do submit newsletters where we tell them what we're going to be covering. My team, second grade, agreed that in the newsletter we could only talk about what we had already done. But I don't find it so useful. So I have included what's going to happen, because parents need to know what is coming, not what already happened, so they can collaborate with you. But that's an initiative that I have taken.
Wonderful. Which is your starting point when you are doing your planning? Objective, assessment, standard, or else? Standard.
Well, I have envisioned the standards that I have to meet and the pre-assessment. Before starting a unit, I do a pre-assessment to see what they know, and according to that and where I have to go is what I plan.
Right. Do you reflect after the lesson, take notes, success, and things that didn't work?
I don't take notes, but yes, I do myself see what didn't go well, especially when I work in small groups. I usually repeat the same lesson 3 times in a row because I make groups rotate so I can have less students with me. And I have to say that if I see that something didn't go well the first time I taught the lesson, I change it for the next two. And as a team, we reflect after the unit has been finished about the things that went well, what didn't go well, what the changes that need to be implemented for the coming year.
I see. Do you keep the lesson plans for the year to come? If so, do you modify or do you use the same thing?
What do you mean?
When you have your lesson plans, because you just told me that you do lesson plans,
With
do
the
you keep
team.
them? You keep them for the next year?
No, we after the reflection, when the unit has finished, we make changes into the previous one, and yes, that would be the next year's unit outline, because it's not a lesson plan with the daily activities. But even then, the next year you might need to make changes because the students are different, and that is all incorporated into that. But basically, yes, we use the same that we improved the year before. After we finished the unit, we make the changes to that unit to make it better according to how things well. And that would be the base for the coming year. But the coming year, things could be different, so you also make adjustments to that.
I see. And about the meetings and the planning you do in collaboration, what would you like to do different? Or what do you really like?
What I would like to do differently is looking at the enduring understandings, is thinking, well, what is it that I'm trying to achieve with this unit? Then look at the standards and not look at the table of contents that they were told that needed to be taught, which is something that I have seen in practice. For me, the standards tell you how to teach those contents, and the enduring understanding or essential questions guide you to where you're going.
I see. And what is your favorite part about planning?
My favorite part about planning, for me, which is not the favorite for anybody else, is to see the final goal. What is the enduring understanding that we're going to get through that unit? What really are we achieving by teaching children that specific unit?
I see. Something else that you would like to share?
About planning?
About planning.
I think that planning is it's tricky because you can't plan ahead for too long, because if you did that, you wouldn't respect how the things that could emerge in a class. I do think that you should have a goal where you're going to and the standards that you need to meet, but you should have certain freedom on how you would manage the activities on a daily basis according to the children's needs.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi,
What's your name?
my name is Sky Mackenzie.
And what do you teach?
I am an English language development specialist here at a bilingual international school in Beijing. So I work with the kindergarten classes, there's 6 of them, and I share my time amongst those 6 classes, offering additional English language support.
I see. Can I ask you some question about planning?
Yes.
Okay. So my first question is, which is your starting point? Do you start with objective, assessment, standard, activities? What is your inspiration to start?
Well, we do have curriculum maps that are based on both the Common Core standards in the United States, and we also use Reading and Writing Workshop. As a starting point, we have unit maps that we then kind of from the big picture work our way down into our lesson planning. We do weekly lesson plans as a whole team, so we're fortunate to work together on those in mapping out what the lessons for reading and writing will be. In this school, that's all the kindergarten teachers focus on is English literacy, reading, writing, word study, shared reading. So yeah, we work together from kind of the big picture down to the smaller picture. My role is a little bit different as a specialist. I am focusing a lot on formative assessments to know exactly where the kids are in their learning. Now it's kindergarten, it's basic phonics, very introductory English skills. And so I want to know exactly what letter sounds, what sight words the kids might know, so I can really tailor my lessons to what the kids know.
Right, so most of your students are ELL?
Yes,
I
95% of the population are Chinese nationals. So some of them came from ECC, they might have had a year or two of English learning. However, they're coming from a Chinese background, so their native language is Chinese.
I see. After you having your lessons with your students, do you reflect the success or something that didn't work?
Personally, I do. I'm always kind of monitoring. They're 5 years old, so you have to be very receptive to their engagement and making sure that if it's not quite to their level, if it's too challenging, of course, they'll quickly disengage. So you're always really trying to be accurate with the level that you're teaching. And then also as a team, we're fortunate that every unit we go back over our bigger unit plan, and then the lessons that worked, didn't work. Maybe there were certain objectives that didn't quite fit, and we'll take them out or add them in. So we're always working with that document. It's a live document. I've been in schools where it's kind of like, yeah, you pull out the big document and it's just this fancy thing full of objectives. So I'm really happy to be here to see like living documents, this worked, this didn't, change it and keep building it for next year. So, yeah,
very good. Do you keep the lesson plans for the next year to come?
Yeah, so like I said, we work on like weekly lesson plans. Of course, teachers have autonomy to take those plans and kind of shift them how they see fit. But we'll save each one. So then when we're planning, we pull up last year's and see what were the key words, what were the letters, and then we're building on that, right? So sometimes it changes. Every year is contextual to what we're doing with our students, but at least we have a starting point, so it seems to kind of build from year to year.
Do you like the way the lesson plans are done in your school? What would you like to do different?
I am pretty happy with how they go. We've added a section for my role because last year they didn't have an ELD specialist. So that's nice that I can add my input, and I'm also part of the collaborative sharing process. So we're planning together and I'm adding my input of scaffolds and things like that. It's not so detailed, but I think it is because the whole grade level will take that and use that, but identify details along the way individually. So it's I guess broad enough to take it the way you want to take it, but we are thinking about what letters are we teaching, what words, what literature, that sort of thing. So it's detailed enough to give you a good idea of what the week will look like.
Yeah, and also give a space for the teachers to do their own style.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to be able to see a lot of teaching styles and just the way they manipulate the same lesson plan, but it looks so different among the different classrooms.
Wow. Do you have a planning time on your school? Is that enough?
Yes, we're fairly fortunate here being a bilingual school. The children have, I would say it's almost 70% English, 30% Chinese. So when the Chinese teachers are teaching, that frees up time for the English teachers to prepare. So we have, I feel fortunate when I compare it to North America and like a public system in Canada, what I'm used to, I am very grateful for all the time that I have to prepare and plan.
That is good to compare and to have an idea how the things work different.
Yeah.
Yes. How long before a specific lesson do you prepare?
I must admit, I don't plan too far in advance. We get the weekly lesson plans done the week before it happens, obviously. So I would say I'm working about a week ahead. Thinking about the new activities that I need to prepare. But sometimes, you know, school is busy, life is busy. You're in the morning thinking, oh, who am I seeing? And I can quickly run up and prepare something, you know, that morning.
Right.
But typically I'd like to have a kind of a clear sense of my activities and what I'm doing towards the end of the week before the new week begins.
Do you write down lessons, take notes about your lessons, or do you base on other teachers or books?
So we use that weekly plan, which is constructed by the teachers, and we all take away that same document. So I use that as a reference point. But as for my particular activities, I will create a more detailed plan of what that looks like. However, once it's in my head, once I have the idea, I don't need to reference it, right? So I picture, you know, back in university when we had to make these, you know, detailed lesson plans, like I don't go into too much detail. But yeah, so.
And how long have you been working?
Here at this school, I just started this fall, so I moved to Beijing in August.
Right.
I've been teaching on the whole, this is my 7th year.
I see. Does your school require lesson plans to be submitted to administrators or share with parents?
No, actually, we are not submitting our lesson plans. There's no deadline or weekly submission policy. Every teacher submits a weekly newsletter, and that's a parent-friendly version of what's happening in the classrooms, which it's not the lesson plan per se, but just informs the parents of what we'll be learning the next week.
But this is about what already happened, or is about what they're going to do?
I guess it depends on the teacher. Some use the reflective process of this is what we did, but I know for a fact 2 teachers do it as a this is what's coming, to kind of allow the parents to prepare or...
Lesson plans. I see how important it is for a teacher to have lesson planning, even though some schools don't require them. Many international schools hire experienced teachers because they don't provide a detailed curriculum and they prefer a self-driven teacher who is capable of developing their own planning accordingly to the framework that the school provides. This is my first conclusion. Every teacher must know how to do the planning, not only because it is important in order to achieve and to do the work, but also because many times there is not going to be any references, textbooks, or colleagues who knows. Time for planning. Both teachers that I interview agree that having time to plan is beneficial, especially when it is a teamwork in collaboration. Also, both said that they prefer to do their planning with a short time ahead. The homeroom teacher likes to do it 2 days before and the specialist teacher a week before. This is the way I do it. I am a music teacher. I do my lesson planning 1 week ahead, which is equivalent to 2 classes before. This format is very convenient because it gives me the idea of the week and what I'm looking for. I also have the schedule with my school assemblies handy when I'm planning, which is a must for me. And I always need to be practicing a song, a music piece to present for parents. Change, flexibility, and modification. Both teachers mention how important is change, flexibility, and the need to modify depending on the student's needs, the teacher's styles, and what is going on. I think it's very important to keep these three aspects in mind and also educate our student with this in mind. The only thing we know about the future is that change is always present, and because of technology, change are faster and bigger than ever in the world. We must be prepared for this. Template for lesson planning. For the homeroom teacher, it is better to use UVD formats, backwards design. And for the specialist teacher, a weekly template is where she likes to have visualized the whole week. Also, she has a personal goal for each student because each one had a different goal and the teacher works in collaboration with the homeroom teacher supporting what is going on during the week. Visualizing where we are and where we are going. I think that planning is a crucial element for teachers. We must visualize where we would like to go with our students. First, we must know where they are. This requires assessment before, during the process, and at the end. Also, students learn in many different ways, and we must teach every student. In order to do that, we must plan not only the outcome, but the strategies, accommodations, differentiations, and all the details that work for a best practice. It was very interesting to interview the teachers and see how passionate they are about teaching and planning. It is essential for them to have their lesson plans, even though they have different ways to do it.